To Dominica, I really think we could make it. But as a people, we have to learn to commit. Journey ahead will never be smooth and sweet. But as an ambitious nation, we have to be upbeat. I know we have done it before, so we can do it again. All the pain we endured, but pride we have to maintain in order to create a better world. Every living soul has to play their role. We have an opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make Dominica strong. To change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make Dominica strong. We got to stamp out the devil, stamp them out, stamp out evil, stamp them out. Jealousy, not by me, certainly. We got to stamp out greediness, stamp them out, stamp out wickedness, stamp them out. Jealousy, not by me, certainly. Tomorrow is the first day. The rest of our lives, let's make tomorrow the first day of the rest of our life. We have an opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make our country strong. Change, change. I remember the love and unity that we once shared. The hope the children would be prepared. There was a daily part of our living. This society would be part of our children upbringing. We used to eat everything we grow and grow everything we eat. But smiling faces would glow and the people will real discreet. We need to go back to where we were. Otherwise, we'll witness things we never seen before. We have an opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make Dominica.
Yes, indeed. A very, very powerful statement indeed from Joyce Stout. Let me say, pleasant good evening to Joyce Stout, wherever you are at this time. We always cherish that number from you entitled Opportunity for Change as we begin yet another very informative and interesting program of Civic Vibes for August the 25th, 2024. And that is where it is already 9 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. So those of you in Dominica, those of you in the Kalinago territory to be precise, a splendid special good evening to you. Your chief is in the house. And so I think once your chief is in the house, then you guys should be there with your chief as well, Mrs. Sanford. We'll be talking to her in just a bit. But before we talk to Mrs. Sanford, she being the first Kalinago female chief, that is, let me just move across to Alvin Thomas so that he could say his opening remarks, his hi and hello. Alvin, good evening to you, my brother, and how are you?
Yes, good evening, Lofty. I'm doing pretty well. And you? I hope everything is good at your end.
So far, so good.
Great, great. And let me just join you in saying a pleasant good evening to Kalinago Chief Annette. A very proud and dynamite lady, I must say. I mean, I've been following her for the past years. You know, I've had a flashlight just trying to figure out where this lady's going. And I have no doubt. Honestly, I mean, I was elated, but wasn't surprised at the outcome in a sense. But I just want to add my voice to say congratulations to her and to many folks who have already logged in and are ready to go with us on the live. Pleasant good evening and to all of you. Anyone, as usual, celebrating any anniversaries, birthdays, congratulations, and any sad deaths in the family, we extend our condolences. As we speak, Lofty, I know there is some activity taking place on island as it relates to Thea Lafont and her arrival on island and the fact that Dominicans are now celebrating with her. So we at Civic Vibes want to again say congratulations to Thea Lafont. We have already expressed that on our previous programs, but it is something that we need to continually express in terms of how Thea have made us Dominicans proud. It is my hope that if she is a catalyst to change and to bring things around, as came out in Joyce Stout's song, as it relates to sports, then that's a good thing. Again, here we go, a woman. Women power is translating around the whole place, Lofty. So I don't know, boy, we might have to I don't want to say we give up. We step back, and maybe the women is going to give us that sort of direction as to how to move forward. So again, a pleasure to be here, and looking forward to having an interesting conversation with the Kalinago Chief Annette.
Yes, indeed. Alvin, thank you very, very much indeed for your opening remarks, as it were. Let me just say again, a pleasant good evening to all of you locked into the Civic Vibes platform at this time. Remember, this program, it is streamed on YouTube and also on Facebook and on Twitter as well. We have some telephone numbers that you can call in and chime into the conversation sometime later. These numbers I'll plug into the live feed sometime later in the program, but they are 245-2396 or 615-9470. Remember as well, your comments, questions, whatever it is, you can also plug these in the live feed, because these comments and questions, just your participation, they add much value to the conversations that we normally have right here on Civic Vibes. And this afternoon is no different indeed. Without saying much more, let me just move across now and say a pleasant good evening to our special guest here this evening, none other than Mrs. Annette Sanford. As I said before, the first female history breaking here in terms of the first female Kalinago chief of Dominica. Mrs. Sanford, pleasant good evening to you, and how are you doing this afternoon?
Good evening, Mr. Duran. Good evening to Mr. Thomas as well. Thank you all so much for your congratulatory messages. And I'm doing very well. Beautiful weather, beautiful afternoon, very quiet time right now. And I too, as I open up, just want to say good evening to all your listeners, those of you who are following on the social media page, and those of you who are listening via other means. Good evening to you. I also want to join in with the celebration that Thea may be having right now. And also, as I've also expressed before, congratulations to her. But it's something that we will always be proud of. I believe as a first for Dominica, it will be, a catalyst for more development in that regard. So all the best to Thea, and I hope she have a wonderful time tonight. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the conversation.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Mrs. Sanford. You mentioned is the first for Dominica. That is Mrs. Gadson. Thea for Gadson basically brought home the gold in the triple jump area for Dominica. And so we want to, again, send out all the congratulatory messages to Mrs. Gadson at this time. And we also have a first Kalinago chief, woman Kalinago chief. And so we have a number first dealing with Alvin as we get things cracking here this evening. Is that a sign of things? Is that a sign of things to come, Alvin?
Yes, indeed, it is a sign of things to come. I mean, the Kalinago, if and of course Annette will share her thoughts on that with us. But the Kalinago chief has always been male dominated over I would say centuries. I mean, the first chief being Chief Warner, was over 300 years ago in 1667. And that continued up until this year when Annette broke that glass ceiling, as they call it here. We up here in the United States right now have a serious election campaign going on for president. And we have in the person of a woman again, vying for that position, Kamala Harris. So, as I said earlier, Lofty, women are breaking that glass ceiling all over. So yes, Annette is the first chief in over 300 years, almost 400 years since the very first chief in the person of Chief Warner was elected as Carib chief. So it's something to celebrate. And certainly, we in Civic Vibes would want to lend our support to Annette in any shape or form that she feel that we can assist her. We are a platform that disseminate information, and anyhow we can lend her to make her work as Carib chief. As Kalinago chief, let me correct that. It's no longer Carib, Kalinago. 9 years ago, it was changed from Carib territory to Kalinago territory and Kalinago chief. So we certainly would be ready to do that. So congratulations. It's something that we as a people have to recognize. The same goes for Thea. I mean, since 78 elections, we've never had anything as monumental as that. I mean, in the US, I was looking at the Olympics, and I'm telling you, when I saw Dominica flag being hoisted above the United States of American flag, that's the significance of this thing, you know, the gold, bronze, and silver. And the gold, which is Dominica flag, was hoisted higher than the US flag. You know, the United States people, they like to win. They don't like to lose. And you hear the national anthem of Dominica being played in a stadium of millions of people in the stadium and across the globe. I mean, that brought shivers on me. I mean, shivers. Anybody who doesn't know where Dominica is, I'm sure would start Googling, who the hell is this girl? Where is that place? Where did she come from? Some of them may have heard the national anthem for the first time. Some of them may have seen the flag for the first time. And I mean, this in itself is monumental. And the same for Annette, as the first chief in over 300 years of Madness. So I am pleased to be a part of that. And as I said, I will sit back and listen to Annette's conversation.
True. All right, folks, it is already 18 minutes past. Thank you, Alvin. It's already 18 minutes past the 6 o'clock hour. We only have Annette for just about an hour. So 7 o'clock, she has to make an exit, so which gives us roughly 40 something minutes with her. So let's just dig right into the conversation with Annette at this time. Annette, again, we welcome you to the Civic Vibe space. You're not your first time here, but it's always a welcoming time to have you here each and every time. We're just basically going to have a conversation with the first female Kalinago chief. I took note, Annette said basically she's enjoying some quiet time now. This young lady is never too quiet. She's always all over the place doing something positive, especially for her people up there in the Kalinago territory. But Alvin mentioned something and corrected himself, and I saw you nodded your head, Mrs. Sanford. Why the change from Carib to Kalinago 9 years ago? If we want to start there, the importance of that change.
Yes, so it is believed that when Columbus came to Dominica, he actually named the entire region, well, Caribbean, and when he met us, the Kalinago people, he named us Caribs, shortened forms for Caribbean. But our tribe was really Kalinago, and in our language, that's what we called each other, the Kalinago tribe. Now, there are many tribes, indigenous tribes. We have the Karina, which is also women. We also have the Arawak tribe. And if you go across the Caribbean region, you will hear of the Garifuna, you will hear of the Lokono, the different tribes across the Caribbean. So in Dominica, we are the Kalinago tribe. And that movement, that name change was basically to help us raise the awareness that we want to embrace our language back again because we were losing a lot of it, and also to educate the general public that our real name was the Kalinago people.
Yeah, the Kalinago people. And how important, Annette, is the Kalinago people to Dominica and its people on a whole now?
Well, as you know, in terms of history, we were the first people on the island. Mm-hmm. And also, we also contributed towards Dominica's independence. For those of us who know, when the government was called to sign off with the Queen, our Kalinago chief was also part of that well, that particular group who went out to sign off on the independence of Dominica as well. And that was Mr. Faustulus Frederick. He was the one who signed off. So we assisted in the independence of Dominica. But in addition to that, in terms of the general independence, of course, of the Maroons during that time, we also assisted in that regard. So in terms of knowing the forest, knowing various places where they could have hid and be safe, we assisted our African brothers as well in that regard. Even now in modern times, the Kalinago people is, I would say, promoted as a product of tourism, because it is something that people look forward to coming to see, the Kalinago people. And when you look at a lot of the magazines, you look at a number of the promotional videos and so on, it includes the Kalinago people. So we, in terms of tourism, we contribute a lot to attracting tourists to come to the island. And I'm hoping that going forward, we can continue to maximize on that in a more autonomous way. Um, and, to generally build on that, build on the strength that we have to be able to give more to Dominica.
Yes, indeed. And we here at Civic Vibes, we always cherish our Kalinago people. And so whatever it is that we can do right here to help you, Annette, help your people, we're always willing and ready to help. Yeah, just that you know.
Thank you, Lottie, of course.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you. Just before Alvin comes in, though, let me just ask you a sort of question. I believe that would sort of have you go back a bit. Can you, Annette, walk us through that journey of yours in terms of you being chief today?
From the time I started politics, or?
Well, it's you see, I want to extract something from you in terms of what you did to get to that place where you are. I know we had private conversations, and one of your dream was always to become chief of your people, to help your people, to lead your people. And so it's on that note now I need to just extract from you, because a lot of people say, oh, congratulations, Annette, congratulations, but they don't know the trials, the troubles, the hurdles, as it were, you had to triumph over to get to where you are today. And trust me, there are still obstacles in the way, but with your personality, then those mountains can be, reduced, as it were, or will be reduced.
Yes, well, I would say it began with my family, my father. Growing up as a child, he never really made us, the girls, feel any different from the boys. So there were times when we had to go to the garden, we had to carry our bananas just like our brothers. And, we had to wake up in the morning and do our chores just like the boys. So I grew up with the sense that you can achieve anything you want to be. It doesn't matter if you're a girl or if you're a boy. um, if you put your mind to achieve something, then you will be able to accomplish that. And I believe that is really the yoke of what really helped build me into the person that I am today. I keep on pushing for the things that I want. Um, and so I don't believe in giving up. I believe failure can be good. It's good to fail because you can look at the areas that you fail in and then grow on it. So when I did get into national politics and I did not win, um, not winning wasn't to me a big uh, one of a big disappointment. It just meant that there were weaknesses that I had to work on, and there were areas that I really needed to sharpen my skills on. And therefore, if I really wanted to get in there, I had to do what I had to do. So, throughout national politics, one of the weaknesses was people not knowing me enough or not having that much confidence in what I could do. Um, and so I had to be able to be on the ground a little more, interact with the people a little more, and get them to see that I could do projects and I could deliver competently enough. And I believe that's where I really started getting, that confidence from the people to be able to lead them and for them to be able to see that, yes, you can do it. So when I lost the chief elections the first time, um, well, the general public, people in the community, they were willing to embrace a woman, although there were a few people who were still saying a man should be the Kalinago chief. Generally, at the time in 2019, people were willing to embrace a woman. If you look back at the votes, you would see that I lost only by 3 votes, which meant that the people on a whole were not really concerned whether I was male or female, but they were starting to look at the competency and whether you would be able to deliver. And after I lost, I never gave up. I stayed with them. I did what I had to do. It's just as if continuing my work in the community. And I continue to work. I continue to engage with the people. And I showed them that, hey, I'll be ready for the next time. So when the opportunity came in 2024, I had my um, concerns. I was a little reluctant at first to go again, um, primarily because of family reasons and given the situation right now in Dominica on a whole. Um, I really had to consider whether I would want to make that sacrifice or not. And after thinking about it really hard and discussing it with my family and, hearing the feedback from the people, there were people who came to my home and said, Annette, we want to give you a chance. We believe that you are the person that should lead the territory. And after a group from my community came to me close towards about in January, I decided that I was going to head into the election. So getting to the point where I am now, it did take a lot of hard work. It did take a lot of involvement with the people on the ground. And it also um, gave me the opportunity to work on projects that would show the people, hey, even if you were not in office, even if you were never elected, you were able to raise funds and do things in the community. And I believe that's what really made the people have that level of confidence in me.
Wow. You said a lot there, Annette. I got to know some things that I did not know before for sure. But thank you very, very much. I think based on your response, persons out there got a lot from you. Let me let Alvin Thomas chime in now because I have some more questions coming your way in terms of what you just said. But thank you very, very much.
She dropped, it looked like she dropped.
Oh, wow. Yeah, she dropped, unfortunately. All right, folks, we apologize for Annette in terms of the technical difficulty. We all know, well, not we all know. I know for sure that whenever the signal in the territory is not that upbeat, not that up and up. So that is why on previous occasions, we did not have her. She really tried this evening, but we're having some technical issues. Even before we went live, we had some technical issues. So again, on her behalf, we from Civic Vibes apologize indeed. But Alvin, whilst I guess you'll try to come back in, what are some of your thoughts so far?
Well, I think the comments that she just made recently in terms of a journey through to the position of Kalinago chief is very enlightening and it's telling. And I think it is one of I would say in anything that you do, you don't give up. Too often we are faced with certain challenges while we pursue a particular goal. And if we do not achieve that goal, we are easy to, we're so prone to give up and to say, I give this thing up. What you sense from her, coming from what she said, was sustainability. Okay, she's back with us now.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. We understand.
Yes, I don't know what happened to just.
Yeah. That happens sometimes. But no, Lofty was just asking me for a comment to what you just said. And I was saying what I learned from it is the sustainability and the never giving up, and that you can pursue. I mean, I made reference to us in the US with Kamala Harris as a woman too, who never gave up. I mean, she went through the odds, but even towards the end, she never gave up, even in a white man world, which is what it is here in the US. And in your case, it was a man's world as well for Kalinago Chief, up until the time. But let me just ask two quick questions and see how you respond. The first thing is that for purposes of persons who are listening now, young or old, who hear Kalinago territory and not too sure, well, when they hear Kalinago territory, where is that? What is that? Give us a sort of a concept, what the territory is comprised of. I know there's like 7 hamlets. What are they? I know you all have land in commune or so. Just give us an idea what it is. And then also, could you speak a little to what significance this election as chief have, not just for the territory, but for the wider Dominica? You guys, when I say you guys, I mean the Kalinago people being the first people of Dominica. Is there some historic parallel or significance? Do you see anything in that regard?
Yes. Okay, so the Kalinago territory was initially a reserve in 1902 when Hesketh Bell was advocating for the indigenous people. He wrote to the Queen to have an area where they could live separate from the general Dominican public. And he allocated to the people at the time a number of acres of land. I think it was 387 acres of land at the time. And then there were only about 300 indigenous people back then, because a lot of them were killed, after the massacre in Massa. And then there were some of them, of course, who went out, they migrated to other islands. And a lot of them were dying from the diseases from the British and all the people coming in. So there were only about 300 individuals at the time. So the Kalinago people were introduced to schools, we were introduced to a new language, we were taught how to behave like the British and the everyday people now. So a lot of our customs, a lot of our traditions were lost. Within the territory, of course, we have 8 hamlets, not 7, 8. And currently we have just about a little more than 2,800 people. The census of 2011 said that we had 3,000, but through migration, a lot of our educated professionals are leaving. And I would say we have a little bit less than 3,000 now. We are still living on communal land. We still practice some of our traditions. We try to do as much to revive our language. Mr. Langley and his wife has been doing a lot in that regard, and as well as Mr. Prosper Paris. We've also have persons, trying to do the dances, the culinary arts, trying to revive our food, our eating habits, our traditions of how we cooked before. So currently, what we see happening is a lot of revival, a lot of reviving of the traditions, a lot of reviving of the culture. And I believe generally the younger generation is starting to embrace it. Now, the significance of this chief elections, not only with me being a woman, but I believe there's a lot of expectation from the Kalinago people as to where we should be. Reviewing us now as to where we are in terms of where we have come from, we have made progress. However, when we compare ourselves to some of the other indigenous communities in other countries, who have done well, then I believe the progress is way behind, and there's so much more that we can be and so much things that we can do. So for me, I see it's a huge challenge because people expect a lot from me. And for Dominica, I believe this election will mean a lot, and it will generally perhaps be a catalyst as well to a lot of the changes that we would want to see for the Indigenous people, being the first female, as well as given the level of education that my background and the competency that I have, I believe that a lot will be accomplished. And, you know, generally, the Dominican public is going to benefit from all the development that will come with some of the work that I will do and some of the developments that will happen within the territory.
Thank you, Annette. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks very much. Annette, you also spoke of, or you keep speaking of the hard work that you have engaged yourself in, which involves your people in terms of their advancement. Can you give us an idea of some of the work, the hard work that you speak of?
Well, I have always worked as a nurse. I mean, once a nurse, always a nurse. So I have contributed to that caring aspect towards people's lives. And not only that, I have associated myself with a number of groups that have contributed towards the people directly. So with me being in healthcare, I am part of the Salibia Mission Project, which is a branch of the Ross University. Even if Ross University is gone, there's still an alumni which is in contact with us, and they still contribute to the Kalinago people because they didn't want to lose that contact. So we have been, you know, doing healthcare packages for Indigenous people who are hospitalized, if they need to meet cost of, let's say, a surgical procedure that they're unable to pay for, if they are unable to buy certain medications, then we were assisting them, and we are still assisting them. So we're also looking at educating young people who want to get into healthcare. So we sponsored some of the nurses who maybe were not able to pay their fees, and also looking towards sponsoring a pharmacist. In addition to me being on the Salibia Mission Project board, I am also part of an NGO that I founded, which is Quebecois Inc. In 2021, through myself and Paul Crass, who is a journalist, we initiated an NGO. And that NGO, we use it to write for a lot of proposals, because not being elected at the time, there was no way, I believe, that we would ever be able to get the support from government or agencies to do major projects within the reserve. So through that NGO, we were able to write for projects to the Global Environment Fund. We wrote to the Canadian Fund for Local Initiatives, the United Nations Development Fund, and our projects were approved. So we get to do the beekeeping project, where we were able to empower farmers to rear bees, and we are still empowering them to be able to use the products from honey and bees to be able to process it into things that would be used, you know, to export, to market, whether it be candles, whether it be the wax. So we're looking at processing of honey products. Then with the United Nations Development Fund, we were able to do bamboo training. So we trained a lot of the Indigenous people how to use bamboo to do different products, as well as to address the land degradation problems that we were having in the reserve. So areas that were prone to landslides, we plant bamboos in these areas to protect the areas from landslides, given the climate change issue that we're having now. With the Canadian Fund of Local Initiative, we were able to sponsor women who dropped out of school for whatever reason years ago, whether it be for sexual abuse, whether it be teenage pregnancy, or just general inability to provide for the basic needs to go to school, and they dropped out at early ages. These women were able to do their CXC subjects over, so we were hoping to give them that foundation that they could build on, and then still realize that they can achieve something in their lives. We just got the results, and so far about 5 students have gotten 1s, and some of them have gotten 2s and 3s. So overall, we have about 90% pass rates of the individuals who did this program this year. So again, congratulations to them. They have worked hard and they have accomplished a lot. In addition to that, we also got funding from the CRIF, Catastrophic risk insurance facility. This program addresses the water issue that we have in the reserve. So a lot of the underground water sources that are not being cared for, we are able now to conserve these areas. We're also able to get a lawyer to do the bylaws to protect certain zones around these areas, as well as engage in tree planting and upgrading the basic tanks that are there. And if there are no tanks in the area, we can, build tanks so that the people would be able to get water whenever there's a shortage from Dawasco, or even after Hurricane Maria, a lot of people were using the underground water sources. So through this NGO, we have been engaging in a lot of projects within the community on a wide level. And I'm very grateful, for the team that has been working with me. I have a team of professionals all from the territory, and they have been putting in a lot of their voluntary work, sitting up late, writing proposals, monitoring the various sites that we're doing the projects. And so it's a lot of voluntary work, but at the same time, we feel satisfied that the community is benefiting from the projects that we're doing. As well as, over the years being a senator, I also engage in the Grade 6 Empowerment Program. So what we did, we sponsored a lot of the children to stay back after school to do extra lessons, because a lot of the schools were not doing extra lessons. And in order to do that, we had to pay some of the teachers to stay back, as well as give the students snacks to be able to stay back. A lot of the students, some of them cannot afford, to bring a snack to school. And that's the reality in the territory. So we had to give them the snacks. We also had to ensure that the transport is available to take them back home. Now, in that year, I think it was 2022, we had the most scholarships in the territory. Hopefully this year, I am hoping to bring this program back on stream so that our students would be able to do better at these exams and excel and do well. Because generally, I think that everybody have the opportunity to do well if they have the proper support. And that is what I notice about our children. Some of them may seem slow, some of them may seem as if they cannot do the work, but if they do not have the textbook, or if they do not have that extra tutoring that would help them and push them to do well, then they will not do well. So this is generally some of the things that I've done, not to mention many more personal assistance, people who want help to do certain things personally, and I was able to meet those needs.
Wow. Again,
Wow.
Annette, you're a hard worker. We at Civic
amazing.
Vibe just want to compliment you and tell you, keep keeping on.
That's amazing.
Thank
Annette, I mean, I'm hearing some of these things for the first time. I guess maybe Lofty is aware of some of them. And I'm sure a lot of our folks who are on there with us is hearing that for the first time. And again, you need to be complimented. How does someone outside the territory knows about that work? And if someone wants to contribute, support, I mean, how do we know? Do you have a Facebook page, or I'm just trying to figure out
A website or anything?
A website, or how do we know? Because there are a lot of folks right on now in the diaspora, and I'm sure they are moved by what they've just heard. I mean, when you talk about this Grade 6 Empowerment Program, I mean, this is a fantastic program.
How do they? Yeah, how do they contribute?
How would they contribute? And that is something that could be replicated in other communities around Dominica.
Yes. So, well, I have a social media page where I promote what I do. My basic Annette Sanford social media page. And we also have a website that our NGO run. So it's kibekwati.org.
Spell that out.
Kibe.
I'm sorry, start again.
KIBEKUATI.org. So a lot of the projects that we have done can be accessed on this website.
You say
Kibe-
K-I, let me just
kibekwati.org.
KUATI.org.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's the website.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Annette.
Yes, and if anyone wants to make a donation, I would have to ask them, do they want to make it to the Kalinago Council or do they want to make it to my NGO? Because of course I will be in the Kalinago Council office after inauguration, which would be on the 11th of September. So the donation can be made to the Kalinago Council. Or it can be made to my NGO, kibekwati.org. If you want to contribute to any of the projects that the NGO is doing currently, and you want us to continue, then you donate it to kibekwati.org. However, the Kalinago Council itself will be engaging in new projects and some new activities. If you want to contribute to that, then I would advise you to contribute to the Kalinago Council office.
Yeah.
So for the Kalinago Council, for example, we are coming up, well, I have had only 1 month to prepare and to organize for Kalinago Week, which is coming up. So that doesn't really give me much time, but we're organizing to have an exhibition, an expo, just about the 15th of September. And it will reflect something that looks like an indigenous community, indigenous village, or traditional indigenous village. So we're expecting to have a number of vendors with their craft items. We're also hoping to have some of the seamsters have indigenous wear on sale. We'll be having a lot of the traditional foods on sale as well. And lots of fun things to do, you know. You will come, enjoy using the arrow, how to shoot things down and maybe win a prize. So there'll be a lot of fun activities on that day, and we'll be having that hopefully at the Sutumas Park. So I'm looking forward to persons who can contribute. If you can contribute a tent, if you can, you know, contribute some food that will go towards doing the preparation for the meals. In whatever way you can contribute, we'll be looking forward to the contributions towards the expo on that particular day.
And Annette, just right there, can I ask you that a number, you give a number just in case someone wants to reach you to further those discussion and or contribute?
Okay, so my number is 615-1381.
Okay, 615-1381.
Yes, and I will also make available the council clerk number.
Okay.
I will have to get it. Let me see.
Okay.
His number for you.
All right. Once you get it, yeah, let me just update our folks here. Folks, you are listening to the first female Kalinago chief of the Dominica. That is Mrs. Annette Sanford. She won that election sometime back, about a month ago. Annette, is that about a month ago? Yes, about a month ago.
On the 22nd. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so we're having this all important conversation. If you want to call into the conversation now is your time. We have like 15 minutes there about with the chief. And so please make use of that time. The numbers to call into the program, they are 245-2396 or 615-9470. These numbers that I called there, they are in the live feed. So just in case you need to attend to them. Yes, Annette.
Yes, so the council clerk's number is 285-8758. So you can call him. His name is Anderson, and he could take your request or you know, any donation that you have, he will let me know about it.
285-8758, Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. All right, Annette, yes, as I said, it is 10 minutes to the hour of 7 o'clock. We started about 10 past, so you know we can go about 10 past 7. Is that okay with you?
Yes, that's fine, no problem.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. There's a question on the feed from Marshall Lawrence who asked here, does the Kalinago territory need more autonomy? And he means by authority and responsibility to govern itself. Well, what is your response to that?
Definitely, I believe that the way that the Kalinago Act is currently, we still have to answer a lot to the parliamentary representative and the prime minister. So one of the tasks that I would have to engage in is finding ways in which we can update the Kalinago Act. And this has been something that has been discussed for a number of years now, but nothing has been done about it. But with my administration, it's definitely one of the top priorities to look at the Kalinago Act and look at some of the areas that prevents us from having the autonomy that we want, which would be managing our own finances, making some of the decisions that we have to do. For example, we have it's okay that the government may come in and just decide, okay, they want to build a school and this is the area they would want to build it. And then we would have to agree, okay, yes, you can go ahead and do it. But when it comes to us indigenous people wanting to build or do something on our own lands, then we would have to seek permission or seek their consent. This I find, is contrary to self-determination. And we would want to align the Kalinago Act as it is now with the United Nations declarations for the rights of indigenous people. So the answer is no, the Kalinago people do not have the autonomy that they would need to be able to function effectively. But with the Kalinago Act updated, we can get the autonomy that we should deserve.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Thank you. Alvin.
Yeah, you mentioned the Kalinago week. You said it's the 15th of September.
It's the week of the 15th, yes. So it will begin the Friday, yes. It's an entire week.
Okay.
It's an entire week. There are many more activities for the week. So we would have a day where the schools would come together to do the 1930 play of the war that took place then. We also have activities where there'll be a sports activity on a particular day, a day that we honor the elders, a day that we, I think there's a day that we have a fashion show from the Karina Cultural Group. So there are lots of activities. It will be released soon. The events committee, as it stands now, the events committee is responsible for most of the activities. I'm hoping that next year, the Kalinago Council would be able to make some of the major decisions on some of the activities that we're having for the week.
Okay, but as you speak now, the council is the one organizing that, the Kalinago Council?
No, the Kalinago Events Committee is organizing the Kalinago Week. However, I have asked them for that liberty to organize the expo within the territory.
Okay.
So the Kalinago Council will be responsible for doing the expo on that day within the Kalinago territory. So that will be under our responsibility for this year.
Okay.
Next year, it will be different. Hopefully, we'll be more involved and engage in all of the activities.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Annette, I want to piggyback on a comment that Carla Guy wrote in the live feed and ask you something. Carla Guy says, this is a woman who is determined to succeed, and indeed she will. And Carla, thank you for those comments indeed, and those words. Annette, I need to ask you, you said some things, especially when I asked you about, the journey. I took notes of a lot of stuff that you said. I see you, Annette, as a leader in your community / Dominica. You're a leader. What I need to extract from you, Annette, is we have a lot of potential leaders in Dominica. And even to take it from the Kalinago territory now, where the focus is, and push it on a more national level, we have a lot of leaders or potential leaders who are vying for different types of positions in Dominica. And truth be said, some of these people, let me qualify it properly, some of these people, they have not been, and I am saying based on what I've seen, are not prepared to do the hard work of some of the things that you mentioned before, engaging the people, meeting the people, working with the people, discussing with the people, just because leadership is all about people. It cannot be something out of the abstract. And so I'm asking you now, Annette, for the leaders out there, potential leaders out there, what would you suggest to them in terms of the upping the game and acing the game in that department to lead people, or to be an effective leader in that regard? Because you epitomizes that in many regards.
Yes, so you said it right, that leadership is about people, especially if you're thinking about politics, right? You have to listen to the people. You have to engage them to find out what their needs are. And you have to be able to, act and do something about the needs that you can. So being a successful leader would require that you be on the ground, you meet the people, you sit with them, you talk to them, you engage them, as well as doing something about the problems that they face. So a lot of the times, we talk about issues, we talk about the problems that people face, but we don't try to get the solutions. And I think that is one of the weaknesses that many of the leaders currently have. They don't try to get the solution to the problem. So there are many ways to get solutions. You don't always have to fight. You can sit, you can discuss, and there are other ways that you can go around it. So I would just say, if you really want to be a leader, you have to do what you need to do. And putting people first is key in winning, in being the top. Putting people first at all times. If you want to win, you have to put people first. You can't be thinking about yourself, or you can't be thinking about your losses. You just have to go out there and do what you can do for the people. That is it. So, and if you see you are not, you don't love people, it's going to be very difficult for you. You have to love people, and you have to love serving, because leadership is about serving people, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, indeed. Arundel Thomas is always listening, and he writes something here, Annette, that I want to read to you. There's a comment as well in the feed that I will address in just a while before we close. It says here, "Hi, brothers. Refreshing and insightful program as usual. I would like Annette to address the issue of Kalinago lands being held communally. Does she contemplate reviewing the situation and allowing the Kalinago people to own their lands individually and have their title to their property?" I think you answered that in brief already, but just to answer Mr. Arundel's question, he asked a final question here. What does she perceive to be possible benefits or threats to individual land ownership in the territory? So two-part question.
Okay. The land discussion has been around within the territory for some time, particularly our professionals who believe that they have been working all their lives, and at the end of the term that they have worked, they are unable to build themselves a home or buy a car. And so I understand the significance of this question, very good question. However, it will not be a decision that I can take on my own. I would have to engage the people. I would have to find out their views, because even during my campaign, there are many of the professionals who are for it, but there are also many of the other people who are against it, because they think that if people get titles to their land, then they're going to lose almost everything that they have. My take on that is to find a way in which the people within the territory would be able to buy and sell or get value for their land within the territory. So the bigger picture would be getting a financial institution within the territory, getting somebody to survey the lands, and then having something like a land bank. So the individuals would be able to get loans from the financial institution. However, if they lose their property, then it will stay as property of the Kalinago Council and not for somebody outside of the territory. So there are different ways that we can look at it, but I would have to look at best practices around the globe and see which would work best for our people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I saw our next guest is in already. Brother John Blanchard, just give us about 10 more minutes and we'll be wrapping up with Annette in just a bit. All right. So thank you for your patience.
I have a quick question to
yes,
ask.
yes, Thomas.
Yeah. Annette, Chief Annette, we have to give you that title, Chief Annette.
Yes.
I mean, you earned it, you deserve it. Chief,
A matter of fact, someone took umbrage with us not saying
Yeah.
Chief Annette.
no,
So with all
they're
due
right.
respect,
They're
yes,
absolutely
Chief
correct.
Annette,
You're
yes.
Chief
Okay.
Annette.
But
And you
knowing
earned
Annette
it.
that, yeah, but
Um,
yeah. To the
let me-
person,
let-
thank you very much for the note.
Let
Took
me
note of that.
ask you, you having your inauguration on the 11th of September,
Yeah.
and you have had the other councillors who were elected. Quick question. To what extent are your people in your territory engaged? Because as you mentioned, and you talk about leadership and leading and serving, and there is this dual relationship. The people, again, getting engaged. To what extent there is an engagement? And specifically as it relates to the young Kalinago people. Because throughout Dominica, it's a young population, and I think it should be no different in the territory. To what extent these young Kalinagos are engaged? And how do you speak to that, the engagement of the people, to allow you as chief to get those things done?
Well, we are just putting things in place. So in terms of the engagement, we'll be starting engagement next week. But currently, from the past administration, there haven't really been much engagement. As you may have known or seen, there have not been a lot of progress with the past administration. Now, with this incoming administration, we would need to get the youth on board in a more practical way. We know the strengths of our youth. Our youth have been engaged in a lot of sports activities. So ensuring that our packs are upgraded, ensuring that they have a say in what they would like to see in terms of sporting activities within the territory, I think would be foremost in engaging them. Also looking at the educational needs, those who want to go to study, what would they want to study, where would they want to study, and look at the needs of the territory itself and be able to engage them on those levels. But for us as a new administration, we are in the planning phase. So we're just putting our plans together currently. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So for the next couple of days, we'll be engaging the communities, and we'll be inviting everybody, young people, old, everybody who can make it to our forums to share with them what they have in mind, and also to listen to them to the areas that we would need to modify. And we'll also be engaging, of course, the Kalinago individuals who are abroad. Hopefully they would be able to have a Zoom meeting with the chief and consul, and we'll be able to listen to them and they listen to us, and we can see how we can put together a strategic plan for the next few years, not only for this administration, but in the event that I am no longer there, then whoever comes in, they will just continue the work. That is what we're hoping to do. And I'm hoping that all the Kalinago people will come on board with us, and they will help us to put together a plan that will work for the territory. And not only to put together the plan, but of course, to continue putting their hands to doing the tasks that would help us to develop our community.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. All right, Chief Annette, just before we wind up things here, I heard you give a speech somewhere, I think it's on DBS or wherever it was. And you specifically, not leaving out the men, but you specifically said one of your mission as chief would be to help women, especially the women who are going through certain situations. And so I want to ask you in that regard again, what are some of the things that you'd want to engage yourself with where the women who needs your help in that department is concerned? What are some of the situations? And also, finally, before we wrap, what is your overall vision for the territory?
Okay. So first question regarding the women, I'm hoping to, meet some of the needs of especially the women who are abused. There are persons who are going through domestic violence within our community and have no avenue to either get counseling or to get that level of support that they will need to, strengthen themselves. I have been already speaking to partnership with persons like Lifeline Ministry, who is doing the housing program. They're doing a housing program sheltering persons who are going through abuse situations. So I'm looking at possibly in the future having a shelter where women can feel safe. They call it safe houses, a safe house where they would be able to shelter in the event that they would need somewhere to find some refuge. I'm also looking at empowering them either with a skill or with enhancing their education. Either way, it will build their self-esteem. It will help them to, build a foundation for themselves where they could fend for themselves. Because within the territory, what we notice is a lot of the women who are going through abuse often are very dependent on the men. The men would be working and they would be at home, caring for the home, caring for the children. So we have to empower them to be able to stand on their own in the event that they're in a very abusive relationship and they would need to leave, and they would have something that they will be able to fend for themselves. So these are the areas I'm looking at. Also policy development. And again, within the Kalinago Act, it gives us the authority to do bylaws. So we can, create policies where we can strengthen legislation to protect women within the territory and, give them that safety that they will need. I'm hoping also to work with the police officers in the area. We know that some of the institutions of state are very weak. So, for example, in our area, some of the times the police officers don't have a vehicle. And if a woman calls to them for help, then it's very difficult for them to leave the police station to try to go to the place where the woman is to give her some help. So we would have to have discussions with the police officers, their supervisors, their just to find ways in which they would strengthen these local institutions that would, again, help strengthen some of the situations within the territory. So there are numerous little things that we can do to help our women within the Kalinago territory.
Yes. Thomas, any final comments for the chief before she?
No, no. Well, we are coming down to the end. All I can say is to again congratulate Chief Sanford, Chief Annette, on the work that she has done so far in her territory, Kalinago territory, and to wish her well as she moves forward. From what she has said so far, she has a very clear vision from what I can see for the territory. And with her team of counselors and the collaborative approach which I sense, she is a person who collaborates at various levels. I can only believe that she's going to succeed. I see no way about it, certainly. So I want to wish her well. A pleasure having you share those thoughts with us. I know there's a lot more you could share, but I'm sure you'll come back again where we can dig deeper into some of the cultural aspect, because I too would like to. I mean, yes, you could go in and research and learn, but it's always good when you hear it, as they say, from the horse's mouth.
That's the horse's mouth, yeah.
Right. So congratulations, Chief Sanford. I wish you all the best with your upcoming inauguration on September 11th. Wish you and your council as well, and the Kalinago people at the territory. And I hope that we, those of us in the wider Dominica, can take a page from what you're doing, especially as Lofty mentioned, those in leadership position, and use what you are doing there as a model for development throughout the rest of Dominica. And those of us in the diaspora want to commit ourselves and to assisting and supporting you in your work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, brother Alvin. Yeah. Just before I ask for your final comments, before we part ways here, Chief, let me just read a comment here from Brother Thomas Alvin, not Alvin, Rondell Thomas. He says, please convey my appreciation to Chief Annette for her astute and articulate response to my question. I commend the idea of a community bank as one of the processes to address the problem. There may have to be, said, appropriate legislation to facilitate such a possibility. And basically he says, thank you. So Chief Sanford, let me just thank you again on behalf of Civic Vibes and the many folks viewing and listening at this time. Again, we want to wish you well in terms of your journey you have started. And with that sort of resilient nature that you have, I know good things are in store for you, your people, and Dominica by extension. Your final comments as we go.
Yes. You asked me about my vision, so I'm just going to share it with you.
Sure.
So my vision is by 2029, the Kalinago territory will grow and support a sustainable economy while respecting the unique indigenous culture and traditions. And I'm hoping that together with my consulars, and the people will be able to accomplish that, because as you know, the territory is in dire need of economic development, and we also need to revive our culture and tradition in so many different aspects. So thank you for having me tonight. Thank you to your listeners for engaging me and your questions. I really appreciate it. I look forward to working with Dominica, working with the media houses across Dominica as we continue to build our territory. And I'm looking forward to any of you who would be able to donate and give to the territory in whatever capacity you can, whether it be to support some of the projects that we're doing. We also need a lot of technical support because currently some of the things that we want to do, like buildings, upgrading sites and all of that, we will need technical support in getting cost estimates. So if that is your field, if that's your competency, would be happy to engage you. If you're willing to give some of your time and your effort to that, we would gladly appreciate it. So I look forward to doing great things for the Kalinago territory. And thank you so much, Lofty. I just want to also say good evening to my dad. I'm not sure if he's listening, but today was his birthday. Happy birthday to you, Dad. Wow. And I hope you had a wonderful day.
Nice.
So thank you all so much for having me. It was indeed a pleasure.
Most
Indeed.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Annette.
Happy birthday to Dad.
Yes.
On behalf of Civic Vibes.
Thank you.
My African spirits looking over high. Oh, my African spirits guide and protect I.
What better tune to end this very, very informative discussion on? Calling on the African spirits from the brother Nas Ufontaine. For guidance and protection each and every time. So yes, folks, we're going to take that all-important break at this time. So get ready for our second segment with the man, the man, I call him the man, Brother John Blanchard. That is how we drop it each and every time on Civic Vibes, information and more information. Credible information, that is, huh? Uplifting information as well. Yes, Dominicans need more of that.
Oh, my African spirits, please, my African spirits, take your guide and protect I. Beg your protect I. Oh, my African spirits, please, my African spirits, take your guide and protect I.
If you got to take a break, now is the time to do just that. And then come right back for segment number 2. We have information to all the cricket fans out there, the cricket lovers out there.
Oh, yes, you are.
The West Indies team, yes, our team.
You said that it's been before.
They won South Africa today in another T20 match. So congratulations to the boys thus far.
Oh, my African spirit.
Second win in a row.
African spirit. Guide and protect I. Oh, my African spirit. Yes, my African spirit. Make your guide and protect I. Oh, my African spirit, Lord, my African spirit, your guidance.
All right, folks, now that we have gotten some protection, let us swing right back into things at this time. Let me say a special good evening to you folks who are still here with us. It is 15 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. And we're going to swing now into segment 2 of the program, where we're going to discuss some pertinent but local issues, some local but pertinent issues in Dominica as it pertains to our nation's development. And we have this evening Brother John Blanchard. John Blanchard, where are you? Are you there? We need to see your face in the place. Are you there? Brother John Blanchard, are you there? All right, I think Brother John is not there as yet. So let me see if we can do this and we'll be right back. Let me see. Okay, yes, I think he's there. Brother John Blanchard, I was saying hi and hello to you. How are you, brother? You need to unmute. John, are you hearing me? You need to unmute.
He's still muted.
You need to unmute. I'm not hearing you. All right, I think Brother John is not hearing me. Let's do this. We'll come right back.
Oh, my African spirit, looking over high. Oh, my African spirit, guide and protect by you. Oh, my African spirit, please, my African spirit, take your guide and protect I.
All right, folks, again, we apologize. We're having a technical difficulty, Brother John Blanchard. So we're trying to rectify that in the meantime, in the meantime and between time, we continue with the music of Brother Nasio.
That was been before, that shall be begun again and again. My African spirit looking over. My African spirit guide and protect. Oh, my African spirits, please, my African spirits, take your guide and protect I. Take your protect I. Oh, my African spirits, please, my African spirits, take your guide and protect I. Take your protect I. Protect I, you know. Out of the ashes
All right, folks, we're just having a little technical difficulty engaging Brother John Blanchard at this time. So we're trying our very best to resolve that technicality. So in just a bit, Brother John Blanchard should be live here with us.
Oh, yes, you are. You said that it's been before, and you yourself that should be again. I'll be again. Oh, my African spirit is looking over. My African spirit, guide and protect I. Oh, my African spirits, yes, my African spirits, make your guide and protect I. It's the story about your come King Bob reporting for duty. Because God is so silent, man taking full advantage. So now and then examples are sent to emphasize this message.
All right, let's see if we can engage. John, are you hearing me now?
He's muted.
Yes, John, you're muted.
Unmute.
To do is wrong, abuse his power and his position until his power comes around. Big man like Saddam, Chavez and Gaddafi, don't be begging for mercy, hey, hey, crying like a baby. So all those who think they have power, come coming. Any minute, any hour, come coming. When you want to crush a position, come coming. Today you up, tomorrow you don't come coming. Come comes to kings and powerful men. It's a natural justice thing. No one is exempt. So when a prime minister becomes a kidnapper, then one day he travel and you hear him sing, guess what? Come in. Boom, boom, boom.
He's having a little difficulty. He's still muted. He's still showing mute. You're mute, John. You need to unmute your mic. You might have to log out and log back in. Log in.
Victimizing your fellow man just to please a politician when you still in your neighbor's.
All right, folks, I think we're having some serious technical issues here with John. He says telephone issues, huh? So we may, Alvin, we may have to abort the mission of John tonight and just continue the program, basically, 2 hours, right?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine, Lofty.
John is having some issues.
Yeah, maybe he'll be able to come in a little later. That's fine. We can have that conversation. What he can do, he can log off and come back in, see if he'll be able to get back in. But go ahead, Lofty. You want me to what would you?
Let me just ask him whether he would want me to call him in, dial him in instead, right? Let me just ask him. Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
No, for sure, it is not over. Karma comes to kings, even the lowest of men. It's a natural justice thing. No one is exempt. So when a police officer brutalizing a protester, the day he take off that uniform, that
is doing wrong. You defend him, you even join him.
All right, folks, again, we apologize here for the technical issue that our guest basically is having at this time. Brother John Blanchard basically saying that he has some issues with his devices at this time. All right. So I sent a message to him asking him whether he could, want me to dial him in, but he has not responded just yet. So Alvin, in the interest of time, I think we can, get going. If John comes in, then we'll take him on board. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, Lofty.
All right, cool. Alvin, where do we want to start in terms of some of the issues that are burning in Dominica at this time?
Well, Lofty, there's so many burning issues.
Okay, he said, he just responded, Alvin, he said, sure. So let me just try to make that link at this time, and then we'll try to engage him on the telephone line. All right, so let me just see if I can dial him in at this time. Yeah, let me see if this will.
Lofty.
All right, Brother John Blanchard, are you hearing me?
Yes, loud and clear. I'm having some issues with my, the thing is I don't have my laptop right now, and the telephone for some reason I'm unable to unmute. So I'm trying to unmute, but no, for some reason it's just not unmuting.
All right. Well, whatever you did to that device, John, you need to rectify it after.
Yes, that's what I'm checking out.
Yeah. But thanks for having you, John. The viewers, the listeners, they are hearing you now. They can see you, but they're hearing you. In terms of your opening or welcome remarks, what do you want to say to the listeners out there listening and viewing at this time, John? Good evening again.
All right. So let me first of all say good evening to all the viewers of Civic Vibes, and to also commend you, Loftus, for doing a fantastic job, bringing the much needed information to the citizens to enable them to make a profound decision going forward. I noticed that our first female Cargo Chief, Mrs. Annette Sanford, was on earlier on, and let me just say good evening to her, and of course to Mr. Alvin Thomas, one of our great warriors, should I say. All right, now I know time is short, so let me just try to make a few points quickly in terms of my intro. And so let's say to the Dominican public, that we are faced with a number of issues on this island. And maybe just to name a few of them, we have the lack of accountability and transparency in the ruling Labour Party administration. We have things like the in-your-face abuse of state resources. Well, that is a topic by itself, because we're talking about the $64,000 rent for the Prime Minister, the oversized cabinet, a whole sort of stuff of different areas where state resources are being abused. We also have that one-man government rule, whereby the other ministers of government doesn't have much say in the management of the country. It's really, they're like rubber stampers, should I say. And one man is actually ruling or controlling the entire cabinet. We also have a growing situation of police brutality, coupled with a number of unsolved crimes in our society, right? And there's also concerns in the manner in which a number of our institutions have been dismantled, should I say. And one example that comes to mind is the IPO. The IPO, we once had 7 members on the IPO, and that has been dismantled. We only have 3 members, of course, two in favor of the Prime Minister or the government, and 1 in the opposition, which is very unbalanced. We also have the dismantling of the Electoral Commission at this time. So neither the IPO, or the Electoral Commission, they are no longer independent, okay, as prescribed by our constitution. They are now controlled by the party in power. And we can continue to name, issues and issues after issues in this country. But for in interest of time, I'd probably just like to briefly comment on electoral reform. Or should I pause, Loftus, and take it after? Or?
Yeah. Okay. You laid on some fundamental situations that are plaguing us, have been plaguing us for some time. So thank you very much, John. And again, we apologize on your behalf for the technical issues that you are encountering tonight. But Alvin, did you hear what some of John lined out in terms of his initial comments?
Yeah, I did, Lofty. I did. And let me also welcome John to the program this evening and to say to him as well, to compliment him for the work and the voice he has been lending over the years to some of the issues. But Lofty, while I agree fully with what John has outlined, I want to slant it a little. And in doing so, I want to make and raise some issues as it relates to the people, the consumer, the average citizen. And I want to begin with the first thing has to do with the WASCO rates, the rate increase by the WASCO. And we all know, I think King Dice has a song that he says, water is life. Cut my telephone, cut anything else, but don't cut my water. And we saw in recent time an increase in water rates. And we know everyone needs water, everyone. And water is going to be the next oil, or is currently the oil of the century. And that rate increase has a number of issues, and it affects everyone across the board. Consumers, the average man, the businesses, the hoteliers, you, Lofty, anyone, it affects everybody. And we heard Michael Astafan recently on the radio speaking to that issue in terms of the legality of the way in which the rate increase went about. So that's a major issue. Then, of course, Lofty, we have the frequent load shedding of Domlec. Any country, economy or production of any nation, any country is hinged on energy. Whether it is gas, whether it's electricity, whether it is fuel, whatever it is. And we have seen in recent time the frequency of load shedding. And it's my understanding that Domlec is in the process of doing a rate increase as well. So that affects everybody across the board, everybody. Then we have also, more recent time, the problem with waste disposal. I saw some pictures and videos and I asked myself, is it for real or is that people just making up something? Disposal of waste, that has an impact on people's health and their livelihood and the environment. If we cannot dispose of our waste in a proper way, then we have a serious problem. We have a health issue problem on our hand. We have an environmental problem. And all of the three issues I just mentioned are supposed to be managed by an act of parliament. You have the Water and Sewerage Act, you have the Electricity Supply Act, you have the Solid Waste Management Act. All of them are supposed to be managed by a statute. And I agree, as John said, as it relates to electoral reform, because you've heard me so many times say that, Lofty. Elections have consequences. So all of what I've just mentioned there are a consequence of bad election. Because like Chief Annette said earlier, if you don't have the right leadership in place and the right people to serve, then obviously you're going to have those situations that you have. Because why is it you would tell me that all over Dominica you have a problem to dispose of your waste? Why is it that you have the issue that you're having? And that is not to say other countries don't have it, but the frequency of it. Why do you have all these issues you're having in Domlec? Well, a business may have to shut down because they don't have power for several hours so they can operate the water. So I just wanted to zero in on those issues that on a daily basis affects the day-to-day and the average man and woman in Dominica.
Yeah. All right, Alvin, thank you for your comments in that department. I recognize fully that John, our guest tonight on the line, is an employee of Domlec. And so I don't want to put John in any tight spot as it pertains to his employment now. So John, you heard what Alvin said. It is up to you now to comment based on what you heard. You may choose not to. You may choose to comment based on the three scenarios that he gave.
You know, my position as an employee of Dominica, I really choose not to discuss anything to do with Dominica.
Exactly.
But as a customer, I can say that we'll be much happier if the rates were a little less. Nothing was going to stay in our pocket, and that's what I will say on Dominica. We know of the Duasco situation when the rates was increased recently, and I felt that the one-time increase, particularly for persons with small business, had to pay $100 more. I find that to be a bit steep. For example, the people in Hollywood in Ponticelli, the bars in Hollywood, I spoke to them some time ago, and the water bills was like $20, $30 flat rate, and they now have to pay an additional $100. And they're complaining about low sales and all of that. So the economy is doing very, very poorly, very badly. And rather than they making an extra buck, they have to now increase their expenditure and paying the us for an extra $100. Right? So that I think is going to create a real impact on these people with the small businesses. Like I said, $15 as well is still high for the domestic customers. It could have been done at least gradually from $5. $5 this time around, maybe $5, but it has hit people with $15 one shot, and I think that is very, very unfair. Doasco should look at other ways, other areas where they can increase the revenue. I mean, you have water flowing down to the sea every day. Every day, million gallons of water going to the sea. I mean, why can't they maybe have some tank, build a big tank or something where you can ship water? Because I believe that happened before in Dominica. I'm subject to correction. I believe on the Miss Charles, water was being shipped. So why can't Dominica finger something like that so they can sell water? It could be 1 cent US, 5 cents US per gallon, rather than putting the burden on Dominican. So it seems to me that anytime there's a shortfall of revenue, be it on government side or any company or they come back to the consumers rather than looking at other ways of getting more revenue for the business. I think it's sad, and we have to look at that because we are the ones paying that extra bill with no salary increase or very low salary increases. I mean, of increases over the years. 1% and 2% and civil servants and so on. So basically, the salary remains the same while the cost of living keep increasing. The price of goods on the shelf is much higher. Taxes are higher. Everything's higher. Port duties, everything's higher. But your salary remains rock bottom.
Yeah, John, thank you very much. You're an accountant by profession, and that is the hat I want you to put on now and use, as it were, in terms of the question that I'm going to ask, Dominica's case. John, we in Dominica have been suffering for some time. The minimum wage situation has not gone up. The prices in Dominica are skyrocketing, where salaries are basically the same, on an average for a very long time. The ordinary average man cannot really make ends meet, as it were, because I'm in the trenches and I hear the horror stories of people who basically cannot eat. And when I say eat something healthy or eat healthy meals in Dominica. You, John, in terms of helping us analyze or unpack Dominica's financial situation. I know you're not the Minister of Finance, but you should have a broad idea as to where things are in the economy as it pertains to the balancing of the books, where Dominica's dollars is concerned.
Well, lovely. First of all, we are all aware that our dollar no longer has a value of $1.
Yeah.
Okay, and somebody might say, what if you have a dollar, then you have a dollar? No, that's not always the case. You may have a dollar, but you don't have the purchasing power or the value of that dollar. And the reason for that is because of the high cost of living. For example, when Ross left us, Ross contributed 30% of our GDP. So it means that every dollar that was spent in this country, every dollar of revenue in this country, Ross contributed 30 cents. So, Lofty, if Ross left with 30 cents, how much do we have left? It's 70 cents we have, you know. We don't have 70 cents out of the dollar. I mean, bring it down to layman's term. All right? 30% GDP came from Ross, and Ross left us. So we are left with that void, and there has been nothing to replace it in terms of maybe having 5-star hotels in operating, maybe having factories and other things to maintain that revenue in order for us to see the true value of our dollar. When you have a high cost of living, you have a 15% VAT on everything that you purchase. You have income tax, personal income tax, ranging from 16% to 35% on your salary. You have the high cost of goods on the shelves. Your dollar no longer has a dollar value. And people have to realize that is why we're talking about hardship. That's why we talk about people always broke. Because $100 no longer has the value of $100. The things that $100 could buy 20 years ago, 10 years ago, it can no longer buy it in 2024. You will get much less groceries, much less services for $100 as opposed to what you have gotten 10, 50 years ago. And that is what is creating the hardship. Not only we lack disposable income, but the little that we have, we can't really get the full value of that money. That's where we are in Dominica. And that is where the poverty line comes in. When you hear the IMF and this big organizations talking about poverty rate of 29%, for example, I think 2022 or 23, we had the poverty rate of household in Dominica was 29%, and I believe 39% of the population. And they also cited the Carolina territory to be as high as 70%. And places like St. Joseph and Scottsdale were among a few villages that were deemed to be among the poorest communities in Dominica. So when we're talking about poverty, that's where it comes in. You have lost the power of your dollar, so to speak, the power of your money, your revenue, your income, your salary. It no longer has the power. It no longer has how I put it, the ability to purchase the things that would like to, because it has lost value because of the high cost of living and high taxes and the prices of goods and services and all of that. So that is what causes poverty in the country, that you can no longer survive. You could survive maybe on $500 10 years ago, but right now it's only worth $200. The value is like 5 years, you have the $5 in the hand, but what it can give you is really a value of 200 or 300. That's where we are.
And so the follow-up question to you, John, is what is the contributing factor now in your mind to all of the woes that you mentioned, the financial woes that you mentioned?
Well, first and foremost, if you have a government, okay, that is wasting state resources, you would expect those things to happen. Because rather than, for example, using the proceeds from passport sales, where you could build factories, you could create jobs. Now, by creating more jobs, the people with the jobs, the employees will pay taxes. They will pay Social Security. They will buy vehicles, they will buy tires, they'll buy insurance, license. They will purchase in the shops, in the bars, in the restaurants. So more jobs you can create is more revenue that will more or less circulate in the economy. But rather than these guys using our passport sales, the proceeds from passport sales, to improve on agriculture, tourism, manufacturing, and these things, they are using it for themselves, to enrich themselves, or to stay in power by building a few apartments here and there to give to the supporters free of charge. That does not bring any return to the country. When you build an apartment and you give it to your friends and so, it does not bring any. There's no return on that. There's no return. Use that money in agriculture, in manufacturing, in tourism. When you do that, you are creating jobs. When you create jobs, you are creating much more revenue, because, like I said, people will pay taxes, they will pay VAT, they will pay Social Security, and all of that. So that is one way of helping the current situation. Secondly, the government should cut back on this large cabinet that they have. 26 or so ministers, thereabouts, getting salaries of 12,000 and 10,000 and benefits and all of that. And we are not getting value for money. A small population like Dominica, with about 62,000 people, 8 ministers at most, 8, 9 at most. I mean, you have a place like Jamaica with almost 3 million people, and we have a bigger cabinet. We have a bigger cabinet than Jamaica. Jamaica has 3 million people, close to 3 million people, and our cabinet size is on par with Jamaica. I mean, can you imagine that? So that's a waste. That is wastage. And anytime you have wastage in a country, there is no way that country can develop. And let's not talk about corruption, because we know what that one. I mean, that one is just disaster, corruption. And we have that in Dominica at its highest peak as we speak. And these things will destroy us. These things will keep us poor. The economy will not do better all the time we have that wastage and we have corruption in the governance of this country. It's not going to get better anytime soon.
Yes, John, thank you very much. Talking about corruption, John, just before Alvin chimes in here, let me tell the viewing public and listening public as to some things that I am following upon at this time as we speak. There is this situation John mentioned about corruption, and one thing for sure, it has corruption written all over it. If someday, which to mean would not to be in the not too distant future, we will get to know. Do you know, John, Alvin, and the people I am hearing, and the people who are in the know, some of these people have told me so. The Maho police station currently, where it is housed as we speak, is the state is paying to the owner of that property where the Maho police station is housed now $17,500 monthly.
Wow.
Now, to add insult to injury, John, the portion of land that was donated to the government of Dominica way back when by a businessman, where the former police station was housed, that land is still belonging to the government of Dominica. And after Hurricane Maria, the government up to this day cannot see it fit to rebuild a structure on the land that is in the ownership still of the government, the people of Dominica, but rather would up to renting a property in Maho to house the police station. And we, the taxpayers, we are paying the owner of that property in the tune of $17,500 $500 EC every month. And the bombshell is, John, you spoke about corruption. And I'm saying corruption in Dominica, it's now on steroids, meaning things have gone haywire. I am hearing from the people who know that the owner of that house in Maho is a sitting minister of government as we speak. Basically, getting from us in Dominica pretty close to 20,000 EC dollars for a house that he is the owner of, and that house is in the name of somebody else.
Wow.
And so, John, when you spoke of corruption, at least that one came to mind. There are many, many more. But I just wanted you and the public to be aware of that situation so that when as they say, when everything comes to light, at least you guys would have known that before. And trust me, John, I am saying tonight, a couple ministers in government, whenever this government is out, whatever passes for government, and proper investigations are carried out, a number of ministers and people who are associated to the government, they have to take some jail time, no two ways about it. And that is why there is this extra push for them to stay on the backs of the people, knowing fully well what they have engaged themselves in and with, whereby they are basically bringing this country to its knees as it pertains to their very corrupt activities. There's much more I can say, John, but in the interest of time, as you said, and I know Alvin want to comment, I will leave it there for now. But I just wanted to put Dominicans on note that the Maho police station, 17,500 EC dollars.
Wow.
That is being rented out too. And also the ownership of that, it's a sitting minister of government in the Dominica Labour Party government. But that person, he is in the shadows and somebody is fronting for him as owner, receiving corruptly our monies under deception and false pretense.
Well, Lofty, and I'm sure John will agree, as he so well articulated. Corruption is one of the most corrosive problems in any country. Okay? Corruption, one of the most corrosive problems in any country. And earlier on, John mentioned the IPO. And we are all pretty much aware what supposedly ought to have been the function of the IPO. And when the IPO first came into being, it was, the chairman was the distinct Julian Johnson, attorney, well-respected, knowledgeable, and we know the IPO was made up of 7 members. And that in itself requires a whole program by itself. And then we knew what happened when the first issue was raised at the IPO as it relates to some property that the Prime Minister owned, and what turn that took, and how the Prime Minister went into Parliament and amended the IPO and reduced it from 7 to 3. And the rest is history. That IPO last meeting, when I recalled, was somewhere in about 2020 for the reporting period 2019, and I believe 2020, thereabout. So they have not met for the last 4 years. And notwithstanding repeated requests made by the chairman of the IPO, which is Mr. Hyacinth, Steve Hyacinth, the president have relented on making the necessary arrangement to have appointment and have the IPO constructed in the manner that it should. And we know with just what you have just described, Lofty, these are some of the issues that the IPO is mandated to look into. because this minister, along with senior public officers in the public service, would be considered person in the public interest, persons of public interest. And any assets or any things of that nature that they acquire is where the IPO would have to be, the IPO would be mandated to look into these matters. We're talking about over a period of if you see a term, a government term, you'll be looking at over $1 million. I mean, this in itself is madness. It's just unfathomable to you know that a government would do that to these people. And while you're paying that 17,500 every month, you have issues as it relates to, as we say, the WASCO cannot meet because of rate increase. Domlec has aging inventory generators that are over 30 years old that can be replaced. Government is majority owner of Domlec. You have the hospital constantly complaining about, you know, not having the adequate medication as needed. I mean, this is a crime. That's a crime towards humanity. So I mean, it's just mind-boggling, and it goes back to the whole question, what I said earlier, the fact that election has consequences, and John made a very good point when you asked the question, and he outlined where the people of Dominica are as it relates to the economy. If your GDP is less, you've lost, the economy is on a drain, then obviously it's going to affect everybody across the board. Everybody across the board. And what you have now is in an economy where everybody is balling, people water rate is going up, they have to pay more. Domlec rate is likely to go up. Load shedding is taking place. Solid waste management people don't have the trucks or the equipment to keep the city clean and keep the country clean and dispose of the garbage. And you have a minister getting $17,500 a month.
Alvin, all what you're mentioning there, you see all the ills you're mentioning there? These are the symptoms or the effects of corruption.
Absolutely.
Because if a government cannot manage garbage, something is wrong.
Absolutely.
A government has majority shares in a utility company, and 3/4 of the country is dark ever so often. That is a sign of corruption. So I don't know what miracle or what is it that Dominicans looking for to basically call things by their proper name. And that is what we have been going through, Alvin, for the past, pretty close to 25 years. And so even labor rights now, the people who call themselves labor rights, the people who associate themselves to that, they are telling you privately that have to go. Will they say it publicly? No, but they're feeling the pinch. They too, they're feeling it.
At some point, they will come to that realization.
And it is just sad to see some of us are still in that sort of quagmire, that sort of mud, that sort of political mess that we cannot extricate ourselves from that. 25 years, Alvin, that's quarter century of people have been, you know, basically just taken apart by a few. And that is how we see it in despotic countries where the leader, the one-man rule and their elites, they just run roughshod over the people and their wealth. They scheme and plot and all kind of things. And Dominica is in that state. So I'm not waiting for any history, Alvin, to tell me that we were living in a corrupt country in 2024. I am telling myself that now, because that is what we are going through. We are going through that political wilderness. And we, the Dominican public, we have to do something about it. Come hell, high water. And I know John have been with his people and trying to mobilize. And so, John, what is the solution, my brother?
Where do we go from here?
Yes.
Did he hear you?
Solution is a very simple one, you know. The people must rise up. You see that thing when you call for protest and you call for demonstration, you have a 50, 100, 200 persons coming out, that will not cut it. The people must come out. And when I say people, I'm referring to not just the ordinary man in Salisbury and Port Michel and Roseau. I'm talking about public workers as well, civil servants. They must join the fight. The private sector has been affected also with the high Duasco bills and all the other high bills and taxes. They too must come out. They are suffering secretly, quietly, talking to their friends, the other business partners, but they don't have the balls to come out publicly and say, look, this government is forming the fool now, and they need to step aside. They're suffering, you know. They can see the profits going down. They can barely stay open. They're sending workers home because they can't afford to keep X number of workers anymore because of the poor state of the economy. But they will not speak out. They will not stand up. They will not shut down the business for a few days and say, come on, it's time for us to do something about it. They will not do it. So the people must come out collectively, private sector, the civil servants, the barefoot man, everybody should come out by these thousands and demand the resignation of this government. 24 hours to resign. That's the only way out. Talking about it, making noise about it, making recommendations, making suggestions, be it on Civic Vibes, be it on Q95, Workers' Voice, all of these things will not cut it. Yes, it will help. We are given information and people understand what is going on so they can make a decision. But at the end of the day, if the people does not come out and decide that we have had more than enough, not just enough is enough, you know. We have had more than enough. And this government have to go. That is the only way out.
Yeah, John.
Bring persons that can manage the economy, let them come in and make a difference.
Yeah, John, I'm seeing a comment on the feed there that I want Alvin Thomas to respond to. Peter Carbon, former Minister of Agriculture, he says here, we, and I guess he's including himself in that, have not done enough to help the people understand their economic situation. They are just waiting to get, so they must remain on the list. Mr. Thomas, can you respond to that comment?
No,
Mr. Thomas?
I agree fully with Peter, and that is why my earlier comments when I came in earlier o'clock and made some comments, I took the angle that I took. You have to relate what is going on to some extent with the people. And that's why I refer to the Wasco. Because everybody is feeling it. The lady who was paying maybe what, $15 is now has to pay maybe double that for her water. The little person who have a little shadow movie doing a little bar there, considered small business, have to pay X amount. So like George Bush said a couple years ago, are you better off now than you were 5 years ago? That's a question we have to ask.
Alvin, so juxtapose the situation that Carbon gave, you responding to, and the reality on the ground. Alvin, do you think that you, Alvin Thomas, can tell, let me use the example that you gave, can pump into an elderly lady's head that the water bill that she was paying 10 years ago and the water bill that she's paying now, in terms of the difference, how much education can you impart to that elderly lady for her to make a difference?
I think, well, again, you guys are on the ground, both you and John on the ground, so you can speak more directly to the mood on the ground. But I think the message is getting across, if you ask me. I believe, and I'll tell you why. I heard the Prime Minister made a comment in the Parliament just recently. All you think I saw for something to that effect, but wait and see. And this Labour Party know how to mobilize. That clearly tells you here is an individual who recognizes something is not going right, and as such, he has to mobilize. So we know, and when I say we, all of us on the ground, need to begin to mobilize and say to our people, we have to mobilize now.
Yes,
So,
Alvin, I understand what you're saying, but the point I'm getting at, there is a certain point, Alvin, that you see this educating that we're doing, and this trying to mobilize people, and this trying to inspire people. I know I will be the first one to admit that there can be more innovative and effective ways of doing exactly what we have to do. I understand that. Setting that aside, my brother in La Plaine, what's his name? Mr. Paul, he used to say, nobody have to tell him the economy is bad. He used to have 3 wings in his plate. Now he have 1.5. So how, I'm asking again, Alvin, John, how much more can somebody tell a man like Mr. Paul or people in his situation that the economy is bad? It is deteriorating. It is falling apart. And they must do something about that. That's what I'm trying to extract from you guys.
I think, Lofty, to answer you again, they are going to do something. I'm just convinced that way, because once you start touching a person's pocket, once they start getting affected, and that is not to say, you might tell me, well, they've been affected over the years. I mean, if you say, for example, Portsmouth as an example, when Ross left and people were in destitute position with their house, their loans, their businesses. But I think it is driving home now more than ever before that people are hurting their pockets. That increase in the water rate, that Domlep situation, that now people are they're all right outside their home must be smelling because nobody's picking up the garbage. People are hurting and people are going to act. As to when and how soon, I can't give you that answer.
John,
I can provide you with that answer. But
yes,
I am convinced that people are at the point now, to the extent where the Prime Minister feels threatened. He feels threatened. And he's saying, no, you think I saw? But I'm going to mobilize my people.
All right, Alvin. We have like 5 more minutes. John,
sure.
Would you mind respond before we wind down in the next 5 minutes?
Yes, okay, Lofty. Yeah. So, like I said earlier, I posted a comment that the best person to understand the economic situation is the person himself or herself.
Absolutely.
Who's suffering. So when someone says that we have not done enough, while I appreciate the comment, Peter, we have not done enough to help the people understand the situation. I'm saying that, like for example, the example that you gave Loftus from Paul Joseph, he said when his wife gave him 2 wings and not gave him 1, you understand that things are bad. So why shouldn't a person understand that, look, before I could pay my light bill, I could pay my water bill, I could pay my flow, and so on. But now all of the services are getting disconnected because my husband is no longer working. They let him off because things are rough. My salary has dropped, or I have to leave my work and get something else. So the economy has impacted on that family in several ways. Either the husband lost his job, or the wife lost a job, or whatever the situation is, that is now causing them to be under that poverty, that they can't pay the bills. How much more do I have to say to that person for he or she to understand the economic situation has worsened? How much more can I say to that person? You're actually feeling the heat. You're actually feeling the heat. You can no longer eat that good breakfast on a Sunday morning because you can't have the usual baked beans and saltfish and so on. You have to reduce it to probably some bread and butter and then maybe whatever the case may be. You actually feeling the pinch. You are feeling the heat. How much more can I say to you to make you understand your economic situation? You are the one in the economic situation. You are in it. So you can better understand it than anybody else. And that's why you have to do something about it to change it around.
Yes. All right, John. Thank you very much indeed. Alvin, any final
Yes.
comments before we go? Because we have to wind it down in like 3 minutes time.
Sure. Well, first of all, let me thank you, Brother John Blanchard, again for being a voice for the voiceless. I heard you call on persons to say something, do something. But as it is, sometimes some of us have to be the voice of the voiceless. I always try to end this program on an optimistic note. And what we're doing there is not just coming to say things because we love saying things. And one must not interpret it to mean that we do not love our country. All of us love Dominica. I'm in the US, but I love this place they call Dominica. And I will do anything that I can possibly do to help develop and promote my country. This is my land of my birth. This is my heritage. Okay? So some people have it construed to say, well, when we say those things, we don't love Dominica or we put Dominica in byline. No, we're not putting Dominica in byline. We are pointing out the ills of bad governance. That's what we're doing. And I think, as I said a few minutes ago, I think the writing is on the wall, as they say. Once a country gets to the point where it is right now and people are hurting, that water rate increase affects everyone across the board. While you may not be hearing a lot of who and cry all over the place, but they're being affected. The Domlec situation affected. The garbage disposal, all of that is affecting persons, okay? And I think Dominicans are at a point now, it's like a ticking time ball, Lofty. That's a volcano waiting to erupt. As to how that eruption will end up, I can't tell you. But that's a volcano. And you on the ground, I'm sure you're going across the country and you're getting the vibes from the people on the ground. Some of those might tell you personally, well, Lofty, I don't like what's happening, you know. But I can't say anything just yet. And that is why, let me just end by saying, electoral reform is important. We cannot take our foot off that pedal because that is what he knows. That is the only way he can safeguard and continue. Electoral reform, we have to get this done and get it done in a way, not his way, but our way. Voters ID, a cleansed list, re-registration, campaign finance. These are the 4 major pillars that have to be in any reform so that we can go to the polls, elect a government that's represent the people, that's in the interest of the people, and stop all of what's taking place now in Dominica.
All right. Brother Alvin Thomas, thank you very much each and every time for taking time off your Sunday, or your Sundays rather, and being here with us in terms of the information that you always come ready and prepared to deliver. Thank you very much. Mr. John Blanchard, in spite of the technical difficulties you encountered earlier, persons out there could still hear you and hear your passionate contribution for Dominica. Your final parting comments as we leave, especially in terms of reiterating the solution that you mentioned earlier.
All right, Lofty. Thank you very much, Lofty. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on your program this evening. And let me just thank all the viewers and all the comments that I'm seeing there. It was a great time being with you guys. I'm hoping that next time you will see me live rather than just hearing my voice. And of course, we have been asking for electoral reform. And like Alvin said earlier on, we are just asking for 4 basic things. And I do hope that the common sense, let common sense prevail, and that we can go to Parliament with what we are actually asking for to ensure that we have proper electoral reform coming our way very, very soon. And that discussion, I'll say quickly about the fingerprinting, because I heard a lot of talk about fingerprinting, and the Prime Minister spoke a lot of stuff about criminalizing voting and so on. I don't want to repeat those comments because it doesn't make much sense, you know. But I want to say that for the persons that are in discussion with the Electoral Commission, I think the ERC, personally, I won't put too much emphasis on fingerprints. Honestly, I won't. And the reason I'm saying that is there are other things that we need on that ID card. And so long these things are on the ID card, the fingerprinting really wouldn't make much of a difference. And that's my personal thing. Because if for example we have the person's date of birth, you have the person's name, you have the constituency that the person is voting from, the polling district, the person's signature, and all of that. There's no way that anybody can maneuver the voting with all of that information on the card. Because my name is John Blanchard, I vote at the Suffolk constituency. Let's assume there's somebody, the same name in St. Joseph, John Blanchard at St. Joseph. That person is out of state. So I decided I'm going to try a thing. I go to St. Joseph and I said, my name is John Blanchard. Now when I go to vote, take my ID card, first ID card. It will be written John Blanchard constituency Soufriere. Voters registration, whatever it is. So there's no way I can vote in St. Joseph, even if there's somebody in St. Joseph named as John Blanchard, because it would show clearly that it's John Blanchard Soufriere constituency. So to me, if all of that information is on the card, constituency, the polling district, your name, your date of birth, and all of that, your signature and all of that, your picture ID, to me, I would not go fighting with carrying over fingerprints. I would compromise and say, okay, no problem, let's remove fingerprints. But I want X, Y, Z on that card. And that's my closing comments.
That's your closing comments. Thank you very much, John. That springs up a whole nother conversation, but in the interest of time, we have to shut it down here. Thank you.
We will. Yeah, sure.
Thank you indeed.
All right.
Alvin, you had a final comment to make because we have to go.
Yeah, no, all I will say, and just on this last comment that John made, I know a while back we had the supervisor of elections in Antigua, a well-respected gentleman who's been doing that for many, many, many years, knowledgeable, and as a matter of fact, he is part of the OAS mission where they do election, observing election, and advising what should go. I remember I asked him a question as it relates to this voter ID card. And his response was, you can go back and validate that, Lofty. He said, there is as many as 36. You hear the number I'm telling you? 36 security features embedded in the card. Some of which you can see, like the name, the date of birth, blah, 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 what John mentioned. And some you cannot see, including biometrics and fingerprint. You hear the number? 36 embedded security features in the card in Antigua and Barbuda. Right next door. So I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you. Thank you indeed. Thank you.
We're gonna wake up, rise like to be. We're gonna shake up. Oh, rise up, people, rise up. Don't let them fool you no more. No, 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 no. Rise up, people, rise up. Don't let them fool you no more. No. See the way you must survive. Easy, fighting for freedom. Fighting for freedom. What's out to do is on the rise. Rise up, people, rise up.
Rise up, people, rise up, says Nasi Winsan. Let me first thank Chief Annette Sanford for gracing us with a presence here on the first segment of the program. And also Brother John Blanchard, in spite of the technical difficulties. Thank you as well, the many, many listeners and viewers across the globe who always take time off. Yes. Always appreciate your presence each and every Sunday. But that is it for yet another informative program. See you guys next week, Sunday, same time, same place. On behalf of the Civic Vibes team, we bid you a good night.
We're gonna wake up. We're gonna shake up. As if we just don't go so long. Yeah. Revolution time. Just the people rebel. Yeah, and the people rebel. Yeah, Rastafari.